Hi guys, been a while since I made a video, but I got a dream and I wanted to share it. And it's been a few days, kind of rolling around, rattling in like a marble in a tin can in my head. And it was one of those dreams where when it's super real, hyper real in color, and I feel like I'm there, and the colors are vivid, and I hear things and I smell things, and it's like, wow. Okay, so here's my dream. I'm on a stage, and it's all made of wood. It's a darker wood like mahogany, and it's a pretty big stage. If you've ever seen the Hollywood Bowl, not quite that big, a little smaller, and there was seating like in front of the stage, and there was many rows, and it kind of curved toward the back. If you can look up a Google, kind of like the Greek theater, in the sense that it curves towards the top, and unlike the Greek theater with all the trees all around where the seating is, it was exact opposite, where all the trees were behind the stage and around the stage and around the audience, all the way to the back. And then it opened up and there was a clearing. So I was on the stage and they were playing some setup music, um, nothing specific. And the whole stage had like huge glass doors, big plate windows, and they were thick. But there was also like French doors inside there too to get in and out from behind the stage to the front of the stage and to where the audience was. And so I asked one of the people in the front, I said, how does it sound? You know, because to me it was sounding a little low, and I said, hey, is this okay to you guys? You know, just kind of doing a sound check because I guess I was working the venue. Um, and they said, yeah, it sounds a little low. So I went out and sat where those people were, and I listened and I went, yeah, okay, we need to adjust the sound levels. Me being a sound guy, it's like, okay, let's try and get it so it's, you know, nice and perfect and everybody can hear. And it's not too loud to blow out your eardrums, but it's not so low that you're straining. So then I went up on the stage, went through the French double doors, and on the stage there was a bunch of equipment, musician type equipment, and other stage prop and stuff. And I went to the, well, it'd be stage left, but to my right as I'm walking in, and then I turned right, and I went through the thick curtains like they usually have in the back, and then there was a hallway, and the hallway was completely white and like fluorescent bright. It's like you walk in a room and it's like, oh my gosh, it's too bright. That's how it was. And I walk in, I get halfway down the hallway, and then I can see down at the end of the hallway there's a room with glass windows and glass doors, and there were people in there prepping or doing something, but they were all wearing white. And I was stopped by a security guard, but it was more of a woman who's like, hey, we got to just make sure that you are, coming in and you have no weapons, no anything like that. And I walked up to her and I said, I'm clean. I got nothing on me, nothing to incriminate me, nothing wrong, which in a sense, I think there's a spiritual side to this. She goes, well, I got to pat you down anyways. I'm like, you need to do your job, go for it. You're not going to find anything anyways, but go ahead. So she patted me down. She goes, you're clean, you're good to go. I'm like, I know, but okay, thank you. You know, and me, I'm always polite. It's part of my nature. Um, so I continue to walk down the hall, and then all of a sudden I'm outside. But I'm not where the stage is or anything else. I'm in the very back. I'm like in the back row standing there. So I can see all the seats, people sitting there, probably, I don't know, 500,000 people maybe. All the trees, big pine trees around the stage. I can see the lighting. And I'm like, okay, it looks good. And then I'm listening to the sound. I'm going, sounds good. You know, it's kind of like, all right, my job's done now. The performers can go out there and do what they need to do, but it's set right. And I turned around to look, and then there was this big barn, and I was like, oh wow, okay. And it was square. It was 2 stories tall, um, made of dark wood as well. And there was a barn door on the side that was open. So I went around um, to the left of it, and I went to go look in. It was completely pitch black. I couldn't see anything. And they're like, oh, that's just storage. You know, there was a person standing there, but that's just storage for extra equipment we don't need, whatever. And we put it in there, or when we're done with the production, we put the stuff in there. I'm like, oh, okay. But behind the stage, behind the barn and to the side of it, there was grass. And I'm like, okay. And it reminded me of Monterey, where the forest and the trees go right up to where the beach is, and then you're on the beach. And so I see the grass, and I see an area, I don't know, probably 10 feet behind the barn. And like when I was a little kid, okay, you know, I drove my mom nuts because I was always exploring. You know, it's like she wants to go try on women's clothes, whatever. It's like I'm a little boy, and I'm like, this is boring. You know, um, so I would go off exploring, and sometimes I would hide myself. They'd have these big round racks with the clothes all the way around it on hangers, and I would hide inside. You know, and um, it was kind of like that, where I went to the back of the barn, and I was just kind of playing in the dirt, sand, whatever. You know, it's like not doing really anything specific. You know, but at the edge there was grass that kind of overhung, and there was sand down here that went down to the beach. But the beach came right up to there. I mean, the water was there, but there wasn't like big waves or whatever else. It was just water. So I'm kind of just screwing around, playing, having fun. You know, my job is done. And then the sand starts to give away because I got a little close to the edge, and my foot kind of hung over, and I tried to step down on the sand. Well, it kind of just slipped and went into the water, and kind of, you know, I went with it. Nothing like, oh my gosh, I fall in or whatever else. It's just kind of this slow slide. And this happened to me one other time where it's just like, I felt it and I was like, oh, I'm losing footing and I'm going down. It was all in slow motion, you know, and this happened in real life. But the thing on the beach, no, that was the dream. But the feeling of, oh, I'm my heel's in the sand and I'm sliding, so my right foot went sliding out, and then, you know, my other foot went off the edge and went into the embankment and down the sand. The sand started giving away, dissolving into the water. Well, okay, I kind of fell backwards, you know, almost like when you get baptized, and I kind of slid into the water. Water went over my head, and I'm like, okay, you know, but I wasn't drowning. I wasn't struggling. I was just like, I'm under the water. You know, I didn't need to breathe, but I couldn't talk, you know, and then I see the underlying of a boat. Um, and I look up, and it's, you know, when you're underwater, it's kind of blurry and the waves and everything else, but I could see it was Jesus. And I couldn't speak because I was underwater, but in my head, I was like, Jesus, come save me. You know, I'm under the water, and I reached up, and his hand came down, grabbed me, pulled me up, and then I was standing because the water wasn't that deep, but you can drown in very little water. You know, I wasn't drowning. You know, he pulled me up. I stood up there, and I looked him in the face. You know, and um, it was shock, but it was also this overwhelming, just pouring out of just joy, so much that I was flabbergasted. You know, I think of all these things that I might say, and give him a hug and say thank you and all this stuff, and all I could do was I was just like, uh, you know, and the feeling of joy and happiness and just overwhelming peace, and it was just like, wow, you know. And I saw him, and he had, like everybody has these pictures, and he was on a white robe, and he had a sash around his waist, and he was just happy to see me, and I was without words. Almost how like some people become starstruck when they see their the rock star, the movie star, or their idol, or whatever it is. But to me, it was just like, um, dude, thanks. I don't know what else to say. I didn't say anything, but that was in my head, you know. And then I woke up, and later today, I was brought to this whole thought process of Peter walking on the water. So we're going to go to Matthew chapter 14, verse 22. And this was the prior incidents to this was Jesus fed the people with 5 loaves and 2 fish, and he fed 5,000, and there was leftovers. So that shows Father's abundance. But so now after they had 5,000 besides the women and children, so it was more than 5,000. There's also women and children. So the actual number, I'm curious, but I haven't found any info. But in Matthew chapter 14, verse 22, immediately Jesus made his disciples get into a boat and go before him to the other side while he sent the multitudes away. Now, in one sense, I look at this and going, okay, that makes sense. Now, in Psalms, he says that he will be behind us, and not only will he lead us, but he will also be behind us, And in this sense, it's like the disciples get in the boat and they go before him. So he says, hey, go over there, and they get in the boat and they go, and he sends the multitudes away. In a sense, that's almost like the harvest where the wheat is put into the barn, and the tares, or the weeds, or the people that don't believe, are burned up and sent away. Well, it's kind of the same thing here, And he had sent away the multitudes, and he went up on the mountain by himself to pray. And he went up to pray by himself, but the disciples had already gone on, right? And evening came, and he was alone. So the disciples went in the boat and went on the water, and he went up to the mountain to pray, which is kind of symbolic of the mountain and heaven, and he was alone, right? In chapter 14, verse 24, but the boat was now in the middle of the sea, tossed by the waves with the wind, for the wind was contrary. And this kind of sounds like, if you read this, he went up to the mountain by himself to pray, and now it was evening, and he was alone. He went up to the mountain. Okay, Jesus ascended after his resurrection and went up to heaven. And then what happened? The boat was in the middle of the sea, in the midst, in the middle, right? This is tribulation. This is Book of Revelations, and being tossed around contrary to the wind. Meaning, you believe in Jesus, but the world wants to go that way. Contrary. Now, in the 4th watch of the night, Jesus went to them walking on the sea. One paragraph. 4th watch. Now, didn't he say there's 4 months until the harvest? Right? He waited 4 days. Well, he waited 2 days. Lazarus was dead for 4. Okay? So and then he comes to them. Why the hesitation? Why the wait? Well, because it's the appointed time. And he went, and the disciples saw him walking on the sea and were troubled, saying, "It's a ghost," and they cried out for fear. Now, one sentence saying that Jesus went to them, he was walking on the sea. No big deal, right? That's a pretty big deal, walking on the water. He's defying gravity. Well, he's God. He can do as he pleases. But he also says if you have the faith of the size of a mustard seed, you can move a whole mountain. Yeah. They were afraid because they didn't recognize him. But immediately Jesus spoke to them and said, "Be of good cheer. It is I. Do not be afraid." So he's like, be happy. Trust me. It's me. Peter answered, and said to him, Lord, if it is you, right? He still had a little bit of doubt, but he's saying, hey, if it's you, call out. He says, command me to come to you on the water. He's saying, command me and I will believe it and I will go. I will follow. You call me. Okay, so what did he say? And Jesus said, come. Just like in Revelation chapter 22, the Spirit and the bride say, come, come, we're in heaven, come on, right? So Peter had come out of the boat and he walked on the water to go to Jesus. Another single paragraph, just like, oh, so Peter got out and he walked on water. Oh, wait a minute, Jesus walks on water because he's God, but Peter's walking on the water. Huh? Okay, but when he saw the wind was bolstering, or getting stronger, right, he was afraid. So what happened? He took his eyes off God, he looked at the world and went, oh crap. And what happened? He began to sink and he cried out, Lord, save me. That's what was in my head. It's like, Lord, save me. I'm under the water. And immediately Jesus stretched out his hand and caught him and said, oh, you of little faith, why did you doubt? And when they got into the boat, the wind ceased. Now, the people that were in the boat, they said, then those who were in the boat came and worshipped him. So they didn't believe until he actually got there. There's people that are doubting Thomas's, right? Peter had faith, but he said, call to me so that I know it's you and I can trust you and I'm going to go out there and do it. And he did. But his faith faltered and he faltered, But he also, what happened? He cried out to Jesus, save me. Jesus saved him. How long? Did he wait a couple minutes? Did it take a little more, extra steps? No, he did it immediately and stretched out and caught him. And when they got into the boat, the wind ceased, right? This is verse 32, which means not only did Jesus pick him up out of the water, how far were they from the boat? Don't know. Were they close? Well, Peter got out of the boat and he walked on water. So he got a few steps at least, if not more. And then Jesus carried him back to the boat. And the people then started to worship and saying, truly, you are the Son of God. So people will see the miracle and then they'll believe. So, what happened in my dream? I called out to Jesus to save me. He pulled me up and yanked me up and put me on my feet. And I stood before him. It was a pretty intense dream. It's taken me a few days to kind of like, okay, I can talk about this. But to have it relate to what's going on with Peter, did I walk on water? No. I slipped under, he pulled me up. Was it a long time? No. Just long enough for me to say, Lord, save me. So, be of good cheer. Do not be afraid. Jesus is coming. Today is the day. Accept him as your Lord and Savior. Call out to him. Turn from sin and believe. Because what does God say? It's the will of the will of the Father is us to believe on his Son. So believe. There's grace. There's mercy. And love you guys.